I was thinking about this the other day, with all the talk about tariffs and who imports how much and who exports so much, and the deficit that the US is running versus India or China or many of these other countries. Almost every new company here in India
Hmm.
spends all of their marketing money, their distribution money. Like if I were to even start a t-shirt company, a coffee brand, I don't know, a SaaS company, gone are the days of putting an ad on a newspaper or a TV channel or a cricketing team, or like the traditional way of spending money to get distribution. Don't hold me to the numbers, but pragmatically, I see that declining, and more money in discovering clients in India goes to either Facebook or Google and Meta or
Yeah.
Google. And that money, that revenue might be registered in Facebook India or Meta India or Google India, but essentially, the way I look at it, it's trickling back to the parent company because the market cap of these companies are going up by virtue of the revenue they register here in India. Since we are at the very core of it talking to entrepreneurs who want to start something in India, do you think there's a play there to disrupt this market? Do you think that's even remotely possible for an for someone in the Indian youth to build something to take away some of this pie?
Well, if an Indian company started an Instagram or WhatsApp rival, I would be very impressed by the bravery of it. Not that like I'm trying
Is
to do
bravery
anything
euphemism
smaller.
for stupidity?
No. Well, I would say like what I'm doing is similar, where even now people think it's a stupid idea to compete with Google. But I think there's some angle that can work. And if okay, here's how I would see it. If you can build way better targeting than Instagram does, at least for consumers in India that you're trying to target for your business, and sure, like people would be at least all they got to do is like if they're spending $1 million in ads a year, instead of spending the entire million on Instagram, if they spend 700K on Instagram and 300K on your thing, like that's already a big disruption.
That's step two after I first garner the distribution for my
Correct. Yeah.
platform where people
Yeah.
consume. Now,
And
how
you
do
need
I
to
do
have one
that?
core, you need to have one
Yeah.
core reason why people even post on your platform.
Yeah. What
And,
would that
and,
be?
when you have zero users,
Yeah.
or you're just like getting users, the creators are like, the ones who are posting stuff, uh, they want traction. They want like likes and stuff. They want shares. And so that's the problem. That's a cold start problem. And network effects, that's kind of why I said Meta has a bigger moat than Google. Because Google's moat on distribution comes from their deals with carriers, OEMs, and like all these people. But Meta's moat is just raw network effects. Like nobody pre-installs Instagram or WhatsApp on phones.
Yeah.
They Android pre-installs Google. Despite that, like everybody goes and installs these apps. So I think you got to change that in some way, and you got to build a user base from scratch. And I think that's the hard part.
Any
But
ideas? Say, I want to try it. How do I do it? Give me an angle.
to be honest, I haven't thought hard about it. But let me just try to think on the feet here. Like
Yeah.
the last big app that actually did it was TikTok, right?
Yeah.
And interestingly, they actually grew a lot through Instagram. Like they spent billions of dollars of ad spend on Instagram to grow TikTok. And what I was told is like the Meta team was pretty like laughing at it, like, hey, like, we grew to all these users organically, and little do they realize that the retention on paid users is like retention on acquiring users through paid channels is pretty low. And they're just making us rich and growing our stock price through increasing our ad revenue, and they're not going to actually retain any of the users. It doesn't matter. But that ended up being wrong. Like they actually got a lot of users, and the only reason Instagram is still fine is because TikTok is banned in many countries, and
Yeah,
particularly
in
in India,
India.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say definitely you gotta spend a lot per user on existing channels, uh, and definitely you gotta have some new unit of information that existing platforms don't have that becomes core to your like Reels was new. Obviously, Instagram copied it, but at least for a while it was new on TikTok.
Is that where Perplexity will go eventually? Do you think you'll need to have ads?
I hope not. Um, I think the market for like just like an assistant that is so personalized to you and does a lot of work for you, gives you daily briefs, updates, does market research for you without you even asking for it, is massive. Like people would pay like hundreds of dollars a month for such an assistant because it's kind of like hiring a person. And if the ARPU per person is so high, like $1,000 a year, and if we can at least get 10 million people to pay for it, I think that's like a pretty successful multi-$100 billion company of its own. And if you can do that and figuring out a way to like grow X% a year and getting to Google's like ad revenue order of magnitude is certainly more achievable. And so I also think when an assistant's truly personalized, ads are pretty easily doable. Like, the reason Instagram ads are better than Google ads is they're very personalized to you, right? And so Instagram has done some research that if they removed the ads on the platform, the engagement time went down. Google has never really publicly done any study like that. I'm actually certain that like Google removing ads makes the experience better today.
But can they survive without ads?
They cannot. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So the question you asked about can I have an Indian rival to Instagram? You're going to have to play. You're not just going to be focused on building a better product. You have to actually spend like a lot of your energy thinking about distribution, and Meta can anytime come and say like, hey, like just pre-install Instagram on all your phones, and I'll share ad revenue with you for Indian users.
And even before that, I need an angle as to how I get the initial user base.
Exactly. So it's very difficult, but I certainly think it's worth the of attempting. Some brave person needs to do it. Ideal if the person who begins it is having their own audience, so they can actually influence. It's Silicon Valley people have tried it, like Clubhouse. Again, like, everything has lessons you can learn from.
So the question is, if text moved to pictures, moved to short form video, could it be long form video? No, YouTube has.
YouTube is there,
market.
right?
Yeah.
By the way, YouTube is actually one of the biggest rivals to Instagram, I would say. Mainly because
that was Instagram's market to take, right?
The Reels,
the long form video, the long form video as well.
Long form video, yeah, a little bit, yeah. What I was told is YouTube's ad revenue now comes more from TVs than even like the actual YouTube app. So you can kind of see where people are actually beginning to spend more time on the TVs now, than even their mobile apps. So there's probably something there. Podcasts is growing a lot. A lot of people, of course, you're making one of the most listened to podcasts, but it's a thing that Instagram is not really getting, and it's going more towards the Apple Podcast, Spotify. So there's always like people figuring out new forms of content that's not necessarily going to Instagram. So there's something.
Do you think that's an opportunity if I'm able to aggregate every Indian podcaster?
Yeah.
And improve the quality of their video by, I don't know, if I include a chat function where they can talk to the podcaster and the guest, like have some angle like that. Do you think if I were to be able to aggregate that, is it a possibility?
Definitely. Another thing that people haven't really tried is like live stream the podcast. Like, let's say we're talking now, and like, so the way podcasts work is we record it, you edit it, you post it, and then people are listening to it, but there's no communication between us and them, right? And like X tried that with live stream, and you know, like, so
And
there's
Instagram
something.
has it too, Instagram Live, but it's not really podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's something where like you can consume all the podcasts. You can also talk to the people who did the podcast. They would respond to you on the comments. You can probably like, I'd say, hey, I want to hear this Nikhil's thing in like, but only the parts where he talks about AI, and it'll
Right.
just edit it like really fast and just make a new version. Just you just listen to that. I
That's
don't think
something
the
YouTube doesn't do well.
yeah
What do you call it when you convert video to text? There's a word
the
for it.
the transcriptions.
Yeah, they don't do
Yeah.
great at transcriptions, right?
Yeah, but that, again, I'm just saying, like, why do you even need to see the transcript? Transcripts are there because it's a hack to get to what you want. But if you literally just enter a prompt and say, just make a version of this podcast for me that edits out what Arvind and Nikhil talk about AI or like neural networks, and it just creates that segment, and they just listen to that, and they
Can
would
that
post
happen
that.
now? Because
No,
I thought most large language models are text. They're not consuming video
you
yet, right?
exactly. So you don't need the video part as much. You just need to make sure the transcript is pretty accurate,
Right.
or even take the MP3 file, the audio file, and then the long context is good enough to consume all of it. And then you just say, I want only these parts out, and it'll tell you the timestamps, and you take that and make a video out of it. It's going to have rough edges. I'm sure it's not going to work perfectly, but with some engineering, you can make something like this happen. The hard part, honestly, Nikhil, is you got to start from scratch. You got to create incentives for people to like consume stuff. So there's something new element out needed, and then a lot of sharing on existing platforms of how this is the next big thing. And but you're right. If there's one way to aggregate all the podcasts that's happening in India on one platform, and people like being able to edit it, listening in any new language they want on the fly, it might be a big product market fit there.
Very interesting.